Welcome to everyone. Thanks for starting your day so bright and early with me. Today we are going to be talking about credit recovery in the alternate program and using the VLE. So for some of you, this may be a refresher. Some of you, this may be old hat, but just a good reminder about where the resources are to help you along the way. Let's start with some introductions. First of all, my name is Emily Vollins, and I'm with the Business and Learning Technologies Department, and I am the District e-Learning Coordinator. So I manage the settings, configuration, changes to the system we call the virtual learning environment. I do training, I do support, and with me I have the wonderful and talented Jordan Nair, Nancy Pereira, and Kim Rycroft, all from the Business and Learning Technologies Department as well, and they are responsible for support as well and for training. So let's go ahead and get started. First of all, I'm going to give you a little intro on what is the virtual learning environment, and from here on in I'll try and refer to it the VLE because it is a mouthful. But basically what the VLE is a learning environment, and it's complete with integrations, which means access to other software with single sign-on. So there are a few resources in there you can click on and you don't require a second account to get in. Things like Learn 360, Zello, which is the course selector tool for grades 8 to 12. We have things like Sora ebooks and many other resources, and I highly suggest if you haven't had a look, that you have a look at those resources, and I'm going to show you where to find those as well. So those are available to both educators and to students. VLE also has classroom spaces where teachers can interact with their students, share content, take in assignments, do quizzes, do surveys, have discussion areas. The tool is very, very robust. It is similar in nature to what it does with Google Classroom, but has a lot of different tools that are available to you. It has its own virtual meeting space, and the ministry has also provided digital content that can be used in this system. I know this question is going to come up, so I'm going to deal with the elephant in the room right away and know this curriculum-based content cannot be used in Google Classroom. It is created in the virtual learning environment, so it only works within the virtual learning environment. So, but this content is digitally created by teachers for your use, and it meets all the curriculum expectations for that graded subject level. And these can also be used within your classroom space. How to get to the VLE? Well, you can get to it from the OCDSB website, for those of you who are unfamiliar, and by clicking on the staff portal. So if you click on the staff portal, once you're in the staff portal and signed in, you're going to see a button that says Virtual Learning Environment. Now, I'm going to warn you that this button looks like this now. It is changing. We've got a snazzy new logo that we're implementing in there, so the button might look a little different, but it's always going to say Virtual Learning Environment, so you'll always be able to find it. It's going to present you with a login page, and once you get there, there is information for the VLE directly on this page before you even log in. It talks about the VLE, the resources available to help you, FAQs, and where to get support. So these pieces of information are also located inside the VLE once you've signed in. So once you go ahead and sign in, you're presented with the educator homepage. Here I am logged in with my teacher account. So before we get started about the credit recovery and alternate courses, I just want to give you a little brief overview of what else is in here to help you. Across the top, we have what we call a Navbar. And in the top left, I just want to direct your attention there. We have the Vle Resources, and that's kind of like our VLE Bible. If you click on it, it goes to a site that gives you a lot of information and help to get you started. There's an introduction. There's getting started, pieces of information on getting started, what to do first and how to do those, things on assessment, all of the tools in the VLE and what they do and how you use them is in here with documents and videos, and of course our help and support page. So this is going to give you information on, depending on what your issue is, where you would go to find help. Okay, so that's our VLE resources page, and it's right here. We also have some of the more important information that gets asked the most is getting started, how to activate your course, and finding the copy and help and support. So it's also located here. The big thing I want to point out to you going forward is if you have any questions about anything that's discussed today, or anything when you're using the virtual learning environment, we do have an email support box, and it's vle.support@ocdsb.ca. So if you have questions, you can send an email there and you will get your answers fairly quickly. Depending on the time of year, the response time is very, very good. And across the top, just next to the Vle Resources, we have self-registration. And I want to point this one out because if you have content that you're interested in using, or you're curious about what content is available to use, I've just gone into the self-registration and I'm going to go to secondary digital content. And here is a complete list of all the curated ministry-provided digital content that is available for you to use. Okay, so it'll give you the course name. It also gives you the last time it was updated or released. So you're going to notice that some of them are quite new and some of them are quite old. They haven't been updated. So just a little bit of a warning, when you use the older content, sometimes you might find a broken link. You can just let us know and we can help you with fixing that up. But they are constantly updating and adding new content here. So this is where you could see what is available for you to use if you're curious. So that was on the self-registration button on the educator homepage. There are some other educator resources available to you, direct links, like I had mentioned earlier, to other softwares where you don't need a second sign-in. You can click on Learn 360, so our ebooks, there's a link directly to MAMA, the Modern Learning website, our tutorials, and Zello for those that are working in the guidance area or co-op. We also have the tools and research and grade 12 specific buttons here, which have icons. These are what the students will also see on their homepage because their homepage is a little slightly different. But these are the 3 buttons that they will also see, actually 4 because there's French as well. These are available to both educators and to students, so you know what they see on their homepage. We're going to talk about My Courses. We're back here on My Courses widget as on the bottom right-hand side of your screen. This is where you will see all the courses that you are currently enrolled in, whether you are taking it as professional development or you are the assigned teacher. You may see across the top semesters. Because this is my test account, I don't have them assigned by semester, but you will see all, and then you could see 21, 22, Sem 1, 20, depending on which school you're at. If you've been at a semestered school, you will see the semesters come across the top. And if you click on one of those, it's going to filter for you and only show you that semester. So if you don't have anything that you're enrolled in for semester 2, meaning you're going to be at an alternate school, you're not going to see any courses show up. So just a heads up to you. You would click on the All button and it would show all of your courses for you. Now, because as a credit recovery or alternate teacher, you're going to have a lot of courses assigned to you at some point. The ones that you're currently working on, you can pin them to the top. And what that means is when you log in and you go to your courses, they're automatically going to show at the top. So how do you do that? If you hover on the button for the course itself, anytime you see 3 dots, that means there's a menu there available for you. So if I click on those 3 dots, I have the option to go to the course offering information and make the course active. I have the option to change the image, and I can pin it to the top. So when I come back in the future, these 3 that are pinned, because I can see the little pin icon, are going to be resting across the top of the page. So then you're not having to hunt through all of them, because I know with credit recovery, I have seen teachers with 40 and 50 courses in their list. And of course, if they're not using them all at once, you can unpin them the same way by just going in to the dot, and then you can unpin. I want to direct you to slide 8 at this point, because this one basically gives you an overview of the alternate and credit recovery program, because it is a little different from the regular day school. In a semestered high school, courses are set up in Trillium, and they are created and the teacher assigned, and then a script runs and creates a course shell into the virtual learning environment for those teachers, and it enrolls the students into the class for them. So where it is a little different with credit recovery and alternate programs is teachers typically have several students, but they aren't necessarily all working on the same course. So we have to do this manually. So we have configured a way to do this as quickly and as seamlessly as possible. So this flowchart basically explains what happens if you're new to either the credit recovery SST role or an alternate school. So here's where you go. Does the school have the class shell already built for the course? And in most cases, typically at this point, we do. We create a class shell, we load the content, and where it's different from a regular semester program is those courses have a start and end date. In credit recovery and alternate programs, there isn't a start and end date. The students and teachers rotate through the same course throughout the year as they need access to it. So does the school have a course shell? Well, you're saying, I don't know. Where do I check? I've included the links here. So right within the flowchart, you can go and you can say, well, I'm not sure. In Google Sheets, you won't have to sign in. It should have an automatic link for you. You can go in and you can see what course shells you already have at your school. So you'll notice across the bottom, there is a tab for each and every school within the board. So let's say I'm at Hillcrest and I want to know if I already have a course shell available to use for credit recovery. There you can see these are all the ones that are already set up for this school. Okay, if I'm at Elizabeth Winwood and I want to know what courses are set up, here's all the list of the ones that are available at Elizabeth Winwood. So that flowchart takes you right to that link and shows you what's available currently. So in the flowchart, I've found out I do have a course, so there's a yes here. If we already have a course shell, all you have to do to get that moving and use it is to email vle.support@ocdsb.ca and ask for access. So you can say, I'm currently working with a student on ENG1D, and I would like to have access to the course shell, please. So what will happen then is one of us will have a look at the course and ensure that the content is up to date for you and enroll you. And then all you have to do is enroll your student. And we've included the step-by-step instructions on how to enroll your student. So if you click this link, it's going to take you right to the document. It's 3 quick steps to enroll a student, and I'm going to go through that at the end of the presentation as well, just to give you a live demonstration. And that's it. You're ready to go. Get started with your credit recovery or your alternate program course. The course content is already in there and students can start their work right away. And this is usually a pretty quick process, like within an hour or 2, you're up and running. So that's the flowchart talking about what if you do see a course shell, but what if you don't see a course shell? So for example, you go in the list, you check your list here and you say, well, I don't see what I'm looking for here. Check to see if the content is available. So remember, we're going back to the educator homepage now where I said to you, here's a list of all the courses that are available to you. So let's say you have a very specific course that you need to recover with a student. You can go into this list and say, okay, there is digital content available. So then you send in your request and say, I need a new course shelf for this school, for this content. Can you put me in as the teacher? And it gets done and sent back to you and you're good to go. Now, if there isn't content, and we do have well over 200 pieces of curated digital content there, but in some cases we don't have something available for you, what you could do is look at alternate materials from the appropriate teacher of the course. So, if you're not sure even where to look, you can send us a message and we can put out an all-call and kind of say, hey, does anybody have any curated materials that they've created that they're willing to share? We have a good community as far as that goes with people that have created their own content, and they're usually pretty good at wanting to share. The other thing we also have, if there isn't content, is, and I want to direct you over here, the student experience content. And it's on the same self-registration. It has its own button. And in there, you will find curated materials that were created by OCDSB teachers They were done in summer projects over the last 2 years. And some of these are well, all of them are very, very good. Some of them might be very effective in what you're trying to work with your students on. So there is different things in here that are available to you. I suggest you have a look at those in your spare time, to see what's available. And they're broken down by subject and grade. So that's another option that's available to you if need be. If there is content available, then you email Vle and you ask for a new course to be set up for you. And like I said, that happens fairly quickly, depending on the time of year. We're starting to amp up for semester 2, but usually we try to get these done very, very quickly because we know the situation is such. You have a student standing in front of you and they're ready to work and you want to grab that opportunity. Well, they're very, very keen to get them started and moving forward. Just one other thing on here I wanted to point out. I've included in the slideshow the Quick Start Guide. So this is a Quick Start Guide that we created that kind of gives you an overview of what I've just gone through in the slideshow. So there is a link right to the Quick Start Guide if you want to print that out or download it or keep it for future reference. It gives you what the courses are available, what credit recovery shells you have at your school, what content, and how to enroll your students. So the 3 big questions that you're going to ask when you're working in credit recovery or alternate program are all put here on this Quick Start Guide for you. So there's things you can do to actually customize their learning paths by using things like groups. And what groups does is it allows you to enroll students in specific groups, and then you can condition the content so that only those groups see only those materials. So again, I'm going to give you a little bit of a demonstration on that, but that alleviates some of the anxiety at the student level where they're like, oh my goodness, I see this entire course, and they start to panic. You can release only pieces of the content to those specific groups and ensure that they're only working on what they need to be working on. So groups is a great tool for you to use when you're customizing your learning. And here I've included the instructions once you have your course set up and you're ready to go in the virtual learning environment. I've also included the instructions on how to manually add a student or another teacher into your class. So if you're working at a school and you have more than one SST teacher in the school and they say, hey, I'd like to have access to the CGC 1D course as well, can you just add me in? The same instructions apply. The difference being that you would only add them as a teacher as opposed to a student. And again, I'm going to go through a live demo and I'm going to show you how that's going to happen. Here, I'm going to pop out of my slideshow now because I like to do live demonstrations. At this point, I've been provided my class shell, and I'm going to go in and I'm going to add my student and have a look at my content. So we have a standard default for what our courses look like because when they're created, we have to choose what a Navbar looks like and a homepage looks like for putting in the templates. These are certainly all modifiable. We don't typically see a lot of that when we're dealing with credit recovery in alternate schools. There's not a lot of time to do that, but if you are so inclined and you want to customize, all of these blocks of information that are here are just a template, and you can modify, you can remove, and you can add widgets as you see fit. So each one of these blocks are called widgets. And of course, like I mentioned earlier, anytime you see 3 dots and you hover on it, it's going to give you a menu. So I can, of course, modify my homepage, which is this bottom half. I can change my picture image on my banner by hovering over the 3 dots, or I can remove this banner. And a lot of times we see this happen. I know these days most teachers and most students are working on Chromebooks. So of course you're dealing with a real estate issue on the page. So of course you can remove the banner if you want, and that gives you a little bit more real estate on the page. So you can do that. You can do the same thing with your navbar. You can change the navbar if you wish by hovering over the 3 dots and edit this navbar. Again, what's going to happen is the first time you do this, it's going to say, well, this is the standard default navbar. Do you want to work with a copy? And you'll say yes. I've already done that because it says copy. So I can go in here and I can go in and change my links. Okay, so if there's a specific link that you want to add to your Navbar, you can go in and you can do that. If you have regular meetings with your students via Google Meet, if you're working virtually all the time, I've seen teachers add a link to their meeting right here on the Navbar, so it's quick and easy for the students to get to, because you want to make it as simplified as possible, right? So I'm going to hit cancel because I'm not going to do anything. This Navbar was chosen through a committee. We went through, and these are the tools that are typically used most often, and they are organized as such. So you have student tools and you have teacher tools. Now, because I'm working with a course shell that I've requested, I have my content in here. So this was previously copied. This is a copy of the CHV 2.0 digital content. And this is kind of what it looks like here. I have a unit overview. And if I go, because this is newer content, it's going to open in a new window, and it's got a graphical interface to it. So it's got verbal links. It scrolls through. It explains to the students what activities they're going to experience. It has the grade system, the assessments, the learning skills that are to be acquired, and the achievement chart. So all the expectations are outlined right within the course content. The content itself typically comes depending on the subject with possible quizzes for the students to do. And typically these are self-assessed quizzes. So what will happen is once the student is done the quiz, it will give them their mark immediately. So that's all done for you. If you create your own quiz, that may not be the case, and you can do that. There are discussion areas. If you choose to use those, you may want to, with credit recovery, where you have a student working on their own, with saying disregard that content. So, and that's a good segue into the next thing. So let's say you have a credit recovery student and they only need to recover Unit 3 and not Unit 2 and Unit 1. You can hide content that you don't want your students to see by simply clicking on the table of contents on the left, and you'll notice the blue bar shows up, and that highlights and that indicates that I've selected Unit 1, and I can just click the toggle button for hidden and visible. So now it's marked as hidden. As a teacher, I still see the content. It's just identified as hidden from students. And again, if I want to re-enable that, I just click the toggle and it goes back on. So I can hide whatever content I don't want my students to see. And then when they sign in as a student, they are only going to see that Unit 3 or whatever is marked as visible within the content. People ask, can we customize? And of course you can. And there is a way to edit the content. If you have newer content, and you'll know that because anything created after 2018 has been created with HTML5, which isn't important to you, but it is important in the way you edit. So if you go into your content and you scroll to the bottom and you see a folder that says Teacher Edit, that's where you will edit the content. In the older content, you edited directly right within the pieces of information that you had. In here, they give you a Teacher Edit. So you would go in and you'll notice the Teacher Edit has exactly the same modules. So let's say I wanted to go into Unit 2 and I wanted to go into Activity 1 content. So as soon as I click on Unit 2 within the Teacher Edit and I go down to Unit 2 Activity 1 and I highlight this page, and that's an icon for a page, it's highlighted in a dark blue bar. It shows up on the right-hand side. And again, remember, we talked about the 3 dots being always a menu. If I hover over this, it says options. And if I click, I can go in and I can edit. So now I'm presented with a WYSIWYG editor with some menus across the top where I can go in and it's a pretty standard menu. You can change your font, you can go in and insert things. I can remove things, and it's the straight standard cursor. So if I click with my highlighter and I want to remove one strategy, and I want to start with make an effort instead, basically I just highlight the content that I want to type or I want to remove or I want to add in or insert. I can insert an image up here. by clicking, and I can go to my computer, or from my current course offering files, I can insert a YouTube video, I can insert a link, an embed code, and a video from Learn 360 or a Google file. So you can put in your own Google Drive files as well. And then of course when you're done, this does not auto-save. You do have to click the save button, and because you're on Chromebooks most of the time, you may not see that on your Windows, so just a heads up to make sure you click the save button. I'm going to hit cancel because I'm not going to modify my content. And then when my student goes into their content, they will see that modification that I've made. Is there a possibility of signing in both as a student and as a teacher so we can access the course to get the student view, or is still the option to view as a student? Okay, so that is a very good question, and there is the view as a student option. So if I go in here, I can go up to under my name in the top right corner within the class. This is where I'm signed in, and I can view as a student. So basically when I go in here, and unfortunately it always jumps out to the main menu again. So if I had hidden, actually I'm going to demonstrate the hide content. So if I go in, I'm going to go to my content as a teacher, and I'm going to hide navigation, and I'm going to hide course overview. And then I can go in as view as a student. It's going to pop me out to the main course level again. And then I can go into my content. So you'll notice that it's hidden the course overview. It's hidden the unit opener that I had hidden as a teacher. The student doesn't see it. So you can view as a student, so you can see what they see. Okay, so then to remove that view student, and often I get this email because we're all busy people and you forget. And you go, how come I can't edit my content anymore? If you look up here and you see, and that's why they put the big orange button there to remind you that you're still viewing as a student. So you just simply go in here, hover over, and then click the X, and that takes you back to your student view. So now, of course, when I go back into my content, I can see that my options were hidden here. So let's say I have my credit recovery shell ready to go, and I have a new student standing in front of me who's ready to start working. We've put the class list right up on the Navbar to make it easy for you to find. You just click on the Navbar, on the class list, and I go to add participants, and you're going to add an existing user. Now, that existing user means that that student is already in the system, and all of our students should be in the system. So then it says add existing user, and you do a search to find that student. The most efficient way to search, if at all possible, is to use the student number, because then you know you're getting the correct student. If you type in John Smith, you're likely to get 5 John Smiths coming up, and if 4 of them are students and 1 is a teacher, then you have a bit of a dilemma in terms of which one it is. So ideally, if you have a student number, that's the best way to search. The options are on first name, last name, and username is the student number. So if I go in here and I type in my Billy Smith, who happens to be my student test account, you'll notice that I do have 2 Billy Smiths coming up. So I have a student number here. This is my student. So I'm just going to go back to the beginning here just as a reminder. I'm going add participant, add an existing user. Then I'm going to type in a student number if I have it, first name, last name if I don't, and I'm clicking the magnifier button, and it's going to do a search for all Billy Smiths in the system. And this is my Billy, so I'm going to check the box beside this Billy Smith, my test student 1, and then I need to give them a role. So if this is another co-teacher, then I would choose CR/alt program teacher. If this is a student, I would choose student. So once I have their role chosen, I click enroll selected user, and done. And now Billy Smith is in my class. So now when Billy goes in as a student to his student homepage, he will go to his My Courses widget just like a teacher will do. They will see this My Courses widget on their homepage when they sign in. And Billy Smith will see that PD credit recovery alternate pop up on their My Courses list. The last thing I wanted to talk to you about was doing release conditions, because I did talk about doing it with groups. So let's say I did want to customize my content. Under my teacher tools, if I go to edit course, there are some specific tools here outlined, but all of them can be accessed from the edit course menu. So this is a full list of everything that you can do. As I mentioned right early on in the presentation, the VLE is a very robust system tool. This tool is used in higher education programs as well as in many high schools across the province and at the elementary as well. Down here under learner management, we have groups. So I can create groups and I can assign students to those groups, and then they would only be assigned the specific content that I wanted to give them. So if I put it, and again, this is completely optional. You can put your course together. You can request your course. You can enroll your student and have them go, and you're good to go. Everything's set up. But if I wanted to, 1P, that's my category. I'm going to have options for how many groups I want to do. And with groups, it'll do it automatically for you. So let's say you were working on group work and you wanted number of groups with a certain capacity, or you wanted the students to pick their own groups. There are options here, but typically for this, you're going to do number of groups with no auto-enrollment, meaning it's not going to put them in, you have to do that. And I want 2 groups. And my prefix is ENG, because I'm going to do ENG 1D and 1P. And then I'm just going to hit save. So I have my groups created. I have ENG1 and ENG2. I can rename them. So if I wanted to call the group name ENG1P, I can by clicking on the link, and I can click on this one and call it ENG1D. And hit save. I now have 2 groups that I can assign students to. So I would need to go in, because right now it says there are 0 members in each group. I'm going to go into my ENG1D and I'm going to enroll my users. So what's going to happen now is it's going to present you with a full list in the class. So I have 3 students in my class, and I'm going to put Billy Smith in ENG1D. And you'll notice there's a little tag that comes up, and if I hover over it, it identifies that Billy Smith is enrolled in at least 1 group in this category now. So I know this, and I hit save. And then if I want to put someone in ENG1P, I can go in to my enroll users, and I can put a secondary student in ENG1P, and then I hit save. So anytime I want to go back to my course homepage, if I click the title of the course, it's always going to bring me back to that main level of the homepage. And of course, here I can go to my content, and I can release any of these pieces of content by clicking on them. Remember the 3 dots for the menu, and I can go to view release conditions. So here is where I could create a release condition, and I would choose based on an enrollment, and that would be a group enrollment, and it's going to ask me which group. So if I choose ENG and create, and I save that, you'll notice there's a little icon that pops up, and this is only visible if conditions are met. So that means my student who's enrolled in the ENG1D is the only one that's going to see this, as well as the teacher always. My ENG1P group is not going to see this. So there's one way that you can differentiate the learning all within one class. So there's some ways that you can customize for your groups. The last thing I want to point out is, as I mentioned, if you always want to return to your homepage of your course, you click the link. If you want to go back to your educator homepage, if you get lost, you're not sure where you are, you've gone down the rabbit hole and you're not sure, or you just want to go into another course, always clicking the home button will take you back to the educator homepage. Just a reminder, there's some other resources on this slideshow for you, some information. So how to link your Google account if you do want to use your own materials for Google. There is step-by-step instructions. How to view the notifications within the virtual learning environment. The discussion tool, these are other informational pieces that we didn't get time to go through, so you might want to look at those. And of course, how to get to the VLE and where to get your help. So a reminder, VLE support is always there if you have questions or concerns or need assistance with using the virtual learning environment. I hope I have given you something helpful today, some information that you can use going forward.